short little period of time that I wanted to go live. Let me see if I can find it. And my modem isn't working, my router. So I've got to go live off of my phone, which is a huge pain because then I can't really see your guys' comments that well. Let me see. I'll wait for a couple more people to get in. I know that this is totally unexpected. I didn't announce this or plan this. But let me go ahead, try to set something up. So this is kind of like just super impromptu. Like I said, I have a couple minutes and I can't really see your guys' comments. Actually, I can. They'll like pop up, but it's annoying because when you stream off your phone, it's like not the same as when you stream off a computer. But I have a couple minutes to go live and like I just felt really compelled to come on and talk to you guys for a minute. Because I don't usually read through, like I don't have time to spend on forums the way that I used to, just because, you know, I prefer to dedicate whatever free time I have to making videos and editing and stuff like that. I mean, I edit. People have said, you know, when do you edit or when do you get time to do this sort of stuff? Usually what I'll do is I'll record like my raw video in like an hour or something that I have free, and then I edit off my phone, so I'll do it before bed. I sit in the bath and edit. Like I just do it all the time. Let's see, who was that? Oh, let me see if I can keep the chat up. All messenger. Okay. Hey Judy C. So what I wanted to talk about was I went on Mumsnet, which I guess talks about some of the gender critical kind of like YouTube scene and just the gender critical scene in general. And there's a lot of like conversation about Genspect and sort of like the gender critical fracture. And then also the criticisms that have been raised by Karen Davis and Exelanzic and others. Hey, Jamie Kate Chaos. And you know, something just kind of hit me. And I just felt almost like, not foolish, but I was like, it's something that I feel like I should have tapped into sooner. So when I kind of was introduced to radical feminism, I realized how theoretical a lot of the framework is and how for certain people and certain people's lives, it's some of this stuff is not transferable to just the reality of some women's lives, and in particular mothers, right? The idea that women should parent totally separate from men, you know, across the board, that women should kind of share amongst themselves 100% of the responsibility of childcare and the expenses of children, whereas men are just deposit sperm and then they can keep their wealth and keep their free time and just go about their merry way. So I've always said that I felt that there was a disconnect between the reality of some of the theory in radical feminism and just the sort of day-to-day mundane reality of women, in particular mothers. And that was easy for me to recognize, you know, because that's my reality, right? So I'm able to read some of these theory and some of this sort of political, theoretical writing and just connect it back to my real life. I'm like, does this make sense for me? Does this make sense based on what I know of the women that I've served as a birth worker, the mothers that I've served, the families I've served, and I could see where the disconnect was. Now, hey, Abel, this is just super. Oh my God, thank you. Oh wow, I forgot I set up super chat. Thank you so much. Wait, who was that? Sophie, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. You're like, I think somebody did send me a super chat. It was $2, but thank you so much. Oh, that was really nice. I appreciate you a lot. That's really, really sweet. So I wanted to talk about this Genspect thing because on the one hand, it just sort of hit me because it's like Karen Davis and Exelanzic and, other people, including myself, have, had criticisms, I guess, of Genspect, who I don't know that much about as an organization. A lot of what I know is very secondhand. But this Debbie Hayton, who is a trans-identified male, who is, gender critical, and I realized that I think where the fracture happens and where the divide happens is the fact that for some of these parents who are looking to Genspect, who are only thrown into this conversation only for the fact that they have a gender questioning child, a child who's veering on the edge of gender ideology and who is at a very dangerous, oh my God, Judy, thank you. Wow. Thanks, guys. Judy, thank you. That's like, thank you. You guys are so nice. I feel so unworthy. Thank you. That really helps, and I really appreciate Judy. Thank you, and Sophie. Thank you. That's thank you. You guys made my whole day. So I think that while we have people who, so for parents who have children who are kind of teetering on the edge of this gender stuff, this gender monster, right? These parents who their other options are the gender bread and mermaids and these very pro trans ideology, just really affirmative care frameworks that are available for the parents of gender questioning children. And I realize how much of a luxury it is to be hard line about certain things. And I think another thing that drove this home is, and I wanted to pull it up, and I don't have time because I've got to go in a few minutes, but Kelly J. Keene, in one of her streams, basically spoke to the parents of children, of older children, teen children, gender questioning kids who are sort of teetering on the line of gender ideology. And she said, to any parent of a child who has, who is, in this very vulnerable space, you use whatever language you believe that you need to use to save your child. She said, I believe that not using the language of sort of trans ideology. Thank you, Skeptical Char. Thank you. You guys, thank you. Thank you. You guys are making me feel all just thank you. No one gives me anything. I never get it, you know what I mean? So thank you. I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful to do this regardless. But having your guys' support, obviously, it means a lot. So thank you. And all of you guys, I've appreciated communicating with all of you so much. And I learned so much from this community. I really do. You guys inform me a lot. But Kelly J. Keene basically said that I believe you don't use the language of the trans ideologues. However, with that being said, she said, I am not the one going to bed every night praying to God, praying that my children will be safe and will be, protected from this. I'm not your parent, your child's parent. And, I stand with you. I stand with any parent who is doing whatever they have to do to protect their children from this monster and going about it whatever way that they believe is going to save their children from transition, who's going to save their children from medicalization. And I realize that it is a luxury to be able to take a very hard line ideological stance, because some of the things that we talk about, and even with this like DSD's debate and these really like hard line gender critical approaches, it is such a luxury, because when we're dealing with children who don't have the life experience to really understand and be able to reason with an experienced, a seasoned point of view, kids who can only speculate what the wider lens of life is going to be, who don't have the life experience, who are very abstract, who are very prone to these sort of ideological, very almost magical thinking. And when that's who you have to reason with, and it's not the same as arguing amongst ourselves as a gender critical community, we're trying to talk to a child who is really on the verge. And I think I realized this, that I had spoke to children, some teenage kids of a friend, and they were talking about they had a friend who's non-binary, and when we asked them, we're like, well, what do you think about that? And I realized how difficult it is to talk to kids at that age and to make sense of things. And so I understand why some organizations, I'm just trying to think of the best way to say this. It's like, so when you're an organization that is dealing with the children, with the parents of gender questioning children, it is so much harder to take a hard ideological stance, because again, this is about trying to keep children on this side of the threshold of protecting them from falling off that cliff. And sometimes, like, it's the same way, like when you have to approach somebody who's threatening to jump off a building, you can't just rush at them. You can't just call at them and thank you, Lisa Marie. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. I'm grateful to be doing this. You can't just bum rush them. You have to be so strategic in how you approach them, so that one wrong move doesn't result into them making that jump, right? And I just after, so I was reading Mumsnet, and I was kind of catching up on some of the criticisms of the sort of gender critical divide, and I know that some of my own kind of, I guess, colleagues, for lack of a better word, people, whose work I support, people who I feel connected with in this work that I'm doing, people like Karen Davis, and, who's been specifically a really outspoken critic of Genspect. And on the one hand, I always really sympathized and understood, and I agreed with where she was coming from. And the fact that I don't like that Debbie Hayton, is a voice, because on the one hand, what is it saying to say that you have a male to female transsexual who's sitting here saying transitioning is not the way, medicalization of kids is not the way, but it was the way for me, it was good for me, but it's not good for everybody else? All that's saying to kids, and again, kids who just latch on to things, who really are just so convicted in things in that moment, saying, well, then I'm the rare exception, just like Debbie. I'm the one for whom medicalization is going to work. I don't think it's appropriate that we have people who are involved in gender shit, and who have medicalized, to be the spokesperson for that sort of thing, right? And I appreciate a lot of Karen's work in posing hard questions. I think that anytime we have an organization that is dealing with children and that is dealing with communicating with parents of children, we need to be very critical. We need to be very careful. We need to come at it from every angle and make sure that every single piece of literature, every word that is spoken, every piece of advice that is given is deeply considered, right? Because as we've seen with this gender thing, putting in motion ideas and prescriptions and pieces of advice without fully thinking it through, and without fully playing the tape all the way through, and without making sure that it is airtight, and really thinking about how these things can manifest and maybe how they can backfire, we've seen what can happen. That's why we're in this mess that we're in right now. So I'm grateful for that work. And I think that there is no organization that is above criticism, that is above, being posed hard questions. At the same time, it was like I just had this sort of epiphany that it's like I understand why there needs to be why there just seems to be this mismatch of, on one end we're like, well, we've got to keep a hard line, and we've got to, really gatekeep, and we need to be so clear about this. And then when you have organizations like Genspect, and listen, I don't know enough about Genspect, I really don't, to know whether they're good or not or whatever. But what it just sounded like from when I was reading Mumsnet is that there are a lot of parents that do look to them. And if it's not them, then it's like who? And then they're just kind of left on their own again, and they're left with a lot of, affirmative care. And sorry. And it's like, I just realize it's hard because, again, it is so easy to be ideological. It is so easy to live in a theoretical framework when you're not on the ground working with actual children, actual parents, actual kids. And it struck me because I tried having a conversation with my friend's kids who were talking about a friend that they had who's non-binary. And I tried to ask, and I was like, well, what does that mean to you? What does non-binary mean to you? And what are your thoughts on, they, them pronouns, and, what are your thoughts on just gender? And it was like, and I realized, I'm like, God, it was such a hard conversation. And I realized they were kind of looking at me like I was this outdated, potentially bigoted, idiot. And I was like, wow, I get how fucking hard this is. And I kind of felt like, maybe naive, just in the sense that, I understood. It was so easy for me to understand, how theory doesn't transfer to people's actual lives when it came to certain things with, radical feminism and radical feminist separatism and a lot of those theoretical frameworks that don't translate to the real lives, the real needs of women, right? Even though radical feminism has so much to offer us, when you get into this sort of higher level, really hardcore, it just doesn't translate. And that was so easy for me to understand and to plug into. But then when it came to this, it was and I think the reason why is I'm not a parent of a gender questioning child, and I pray to God that stays that way, right? I think, damn it, I fucking have all this stuff on my phone that I wanted to read off. I'm doing this on my phone. My modem is all fucked right now. But I had some things that I wanted to reference from the Mumsnet thing. It's just such a hard, you guys, this is so hard, And I think if there's anybody saying that they 100% know what the answers are, then they're lying. This has gotten so out of control. This is a beast that I don't think any of us could have anticipated. And me remembering just from the first time that I heard trans and just watching this thing really spiral out of control, and it's starting from a just be nice and it's so rare, and I guess that could make sense, that maybe that guy thinks he's a woman and he's just delusional, and it's one guy, and I mean, if he thinks he's one of us, then he'll be nice too, right? And it's so hard to foresee just how insane this thing could have gotten. And then, and it's like, I just see both sides now. Or it's like, I think I see the other side more better than I could before. And I see how sometimes, but I think both is important, right? Because I think that these really hardcore ideological gatekeepers are important in the sort of like gender critical side of things. And even in the radical feminist stuff, even when it doesn't actually translate, but I mean, even just ideologically, because it just holds a standard, right? And then when we actually are creating organizations, we need to recognize that when you're translating that into actual practice with actual children, and again, anybody who's really is ever been a parent of a child. My oldest child is in middle school. My best friend's children are teenagers, and I can already see it is hard communicating with a teenager, with knowing what to say, knowing how to get through to them, and they just look at you like you're an idiot. Like you're an idiot. Like, and you're just like, no, what? And you like are trying to find the language, and they're just like, So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like, I still don't like the fact that we have people who have medically transitioned who are the face of explaining why medical transition is not good for kids, because it just is a very glaringly saying, but there's always an example. And if you're special enough, then you might, they're not that there's always an example, that there's always an exception. If you're special enough, then you might be the exception. I guess what I'm really wanting to express is just how compassionate I am to these parents. I think that some of the people working with the parents, I think that there's always things that are going to get in the way. And I think that some people who kind of like align with it, I think it does get into like true trans territory. And I understand it's like, I think the concern is that it could like, there's a difference between having to make some concessions for the benefit of the child, for the benefit of the gender questioning child, to protect them, just to speak their language, just to merge that bridge, just to connect enough so that they understand that you understand, that you get it, that you're not just some outdated old person who just doesn't get it, or you just grew up in a bigoted time, where you're using their language enough to just be like, no, I know what you're saying. We can get on the same wavelengths, we can get on the same page, or if you need to make certain concessions just to protect them from falling off that cliff. I think there's a difference between that, and then I think that there's a danger of adults or other people in charge of those sort of organizations who are going to use those necessary concessions for their own purposes. Like, I don't trust Debbie Hayden. I just don't, right? I don't trust a lot of these true trans people at all. I just don't. I think a lot of it's self-serving, and I think that they are sort of capitalizing on the necessary concessions to protect kids, to sort of serve their own sort of like, well, there are some true trans people and it's just, all these other people are fakers except for me. I have the real gender dysphoria. I actually needed medical transition and all this sort of stuff. And again, that's just sending a message to children, basically saying that some people really do need medical transition, and look how, worked out for them. So, yeah, I don't know. Sorry if this is like incoherent. you know, and I think I still have a lot of more just thoughts to work out about this whole thing. God bless anybody facing this thing or anybody being introduced to this thing because they have a gender questioning child. I can't imagine just the heartbreak. I can't imagine the fear, you know, and there is a fear that it's like the more you push back, the farther you could be pushing them away. You know, how trying to confront it or talk about it or reason with it only radicalizes it and pushes it. And so you have to try to find this sort of like neutral speaking points to just get through to them, right? That's fucking hard. So I think that any organization dealing with children is and should continue to be subject to intense scrutiny, right? And they should answer legitimate, good faith questions. They should respond to legitimate, good faith challenges, right? And I think that we're going to need to pull together as a community to support any organization that is dealing with gender questioning children. And that really needs to be probably one of our top priorities at this point. The more that I'm watching these detransitioner stories, the more that I'm just seeing this and watching it and listening to these testimonies, that is our top priorities. These kids, these are life-changing surgeries in a moment of time, in a moment of just brainwashing, in a moment of being swept away through the just the turbulence of adolescence, and it is such a difficult time, and thinking that there is an easy way out, and the magical thinking that comes with not having a fully developed prefrontal cortex that doesn't understand the long-term consequence of things, that doesn't understand that some things that are done can never be undone. That needs to be, together as a community, our top priority. And I think that if we have criticisms, and I know I do, I know I have my own of some of these organizations that are dealing with the parents of children, we also need to be as quick as we are to point out the sort of fallacies or the problems. We need to be equally as quick to offer solutions or alternatives. And we need to really pull our resources together as a community to really support these parents so that they can support their children and to re-empower them. All of the messages that parents are getting, the parents of gender questioning children are getting right now, it's calling them to question their own understanding of their child. It's making them feel just disempowered as parents, that they don't know their child, they don't know what's best for their child, that, you know, their child knows is the one who really should be in the driver's seat at a time when children need boundaries, children need parents. You know how scary it is as a child to think that you're the one calling the shots? That is a scary place to be in as a child. When you look around, if you are a child and you look around, you see that all the adults in your life are looking to you to know what the next move should be, to know what the best course of action is. You know how scary that is as a kid? Because kids inherently know that they don't know. And kids will purposely push against parents. They will push against boundaries to try to find where the weak spots are. And if they have enough where they can move, but where there is a firm boundary, that is a very reassuring feeling for a child to know that, you know what, no, we got you. You can push, you can freak out, you can fall apart, but we will always make sure that you are safe and that the boundaries around you are firm. If they start pushing and you allow it to give, And they realize that, wow, the adults around me are really weak. Wow, the adults around me, they're letting me push the boundary back, which means they're not holding the line, which means maybe they don't know where the boundary is supposed to be. That makes me feel like, okay, maybe I shouldn't trust these people. If they put a boundary down that was that easy to push over, that means that that boundary was always arbitrary. Now I don't even trust these people because it sounds like they don't even know where this boundary is supposed to be. And I sure don't know. And that is a scary feeling for a child. And a core feature of the trans ideology movement is to disempower parents and to make them feel like they don't know what's best for their kids, like they never knew what was best for their kids, that they need to hang back, let the kids take the driver's seat, and let a bunch of strangers with very magical thinking and very bizarre, strange thinking fill in and take over and be the proxy for the parent. We need to re-empower parents that they can hold the line for their children. So, I don't know. I also don't like that, like, it just seems like, I don't know, like on the one side of things, there's also sort of like a paternalistic vibe where it's like a lot of the men in the movement are seen as like the real, logical, kind of trustworthy voices in this whole thing. And then like, the women are painted as like hysterical, sort of like, Katie and Exelanzic, just, so I don't like that. I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's just I don't even know. I hope that some of this makes sense. I just, like I said, I like discovered the Mumsnet for like the first time. I didn't know that it existed, and I just read through some of it. Okay, I read through like the whole thing. Or I read through the whole, I think it was like there was a thread about Exelanzic, and I just, it just sort of veered off into a lot of different topics about, the DSD stuff. Okay, that's another thing. I want to clarify about the whole DSDs thing. I guess, like, apparently I, like, said stuff that was really, I guess, rude to Claire Case. I don't remember what it was. She has me blocked on, like, everything. So, like, I'll see all these replies of people being like, oh, my God, that's terrible. Like, oh, like, a slightly twisted female. Like, what, she's awful for saying that. Well, I don't support that. And all this sort of, but I can't see what it is because it says the original tweet is from an account that, you can't see the tweet. So I don't know what it is that I said. I may have said something that was really fucked up. I don't know. If I did, I apologize. I don't, I just, sometimes I, can say things that are a little maybe like harsh. Or too harsh. I didn't know who she was. I just know that when I had originally done my stream about Exelanzic and the whole Case ordeal, I just remember, somebody called Claire Case was like all in my comments, and like some of the comments were like hysterical and like really like aggressive, and I guess she had gone back and deleted a whole lot of them, but some of them were like pretty provocative. And so I don't just come out and just say fucked up things to people for no reason. So I strongly suggest that some of the context was removed, but whatever. I'm not in this this isn't to harm people. I'm in this to protect kids, to protect people, I don't. And for the whole DSDs thing, I want to just clarify my position. And, I almost hate reopening it. It's only just because I read through this whole thread. All I said was that I believe that if we're looking from just remove all social aspects of it, remove almost as if, we're not even looking at if we're just looking just purely on an organism, like an organism level. I believe that male and female is determined by gametes, right? And the closest thing to a gamete that we have in case individuals is the underdeveloped sperm. With that being said, okay, so I feel like scientifically that would most likely mean that they are technically male. What that means, you know, now, and then there's this whole other issue of they have a female phenotype, and so they have a female material reality. And I think over time I've softened, and I realize again, you know, we can live in our heads and we can live and have this, and I understand the need for, you know, the gatekeeping and things like that. I think, God, I just want to be really, like, careful how I choose my words, because I realize, too, a lot of times, like, things that I say will get taken out of context, or, you know, I'll get soundbited, and it's frustrating. And I just want to be sure that what I'm saying is exactly what I mean before I say it. I'm not an expert on the DSDs thing, and I'm not an expert on case. And again, no, I don't think that, I don't think that women, I don't think that people with a female phenotype, you know, should be expected to go suddenly reorder their entire existence and their concept of themselves. You know, I think that there can be a difference of what we understand scientifically versus socially, and I don't think it would be for me to say that, you know, they should, I don't know, go be in male spaces or anything like that. I do think that that's fucked up. And it is cruel. And the whole, you know, and it's just, I think the bottom line is that the whole argument is cruel. And I know it is not the gender critical feminists who started this argument, right? And I know that we definitely have taken it to a whole fucking other level, right? But it is the trans rights activists that brought DSDs into the conversation. And it's us who's responding to it. And I think that we, you know, those of us who have drawn a hard line, it's because we just need to be so clear now that even giving a slight inch of sex being a spectrum has snowballed. And listen, I have watched so many videos. Hold on. I have watched so many videos on TikTok and YouTube. That's all I do, is just watch TRA videos just to get a sense of what this whole movement is about, so that I can respond to it, right? So that I can make content. And I can tell you that one of the most compelling arguments that they use is the intersex things. Now, I think that we do need to respect the fact that the intersex community, I think that the way to deal with it, rather than coming back and coming with a hard line, I think the best thing is to just defer to what the intersex community has always asked for, which is that they just be left out of it, that they not be used to justify gender stuff. It's just, guys, like, some of this stuff is really hard. It's just really, really hard, you know, and it's really hard that I think everybody, it's gotten to the point where we're losing really, really valuable people in this whole movement because of these really just so much pride and so much ego and just so much black and white thinking. And I think that, like, at some point we need to just stop for a minute and get a grip and just kind of refocus and recalibrate. You know, I don't want to lose any more speakers. I don't want us to just keep getting so far off the grid of what this is about. You know, and being theoretical is only as good as it can apply to reality. You know, we can be as in the clouds as we want to be and sit there and theorize about everything. And if it's not applicable to reality, if it doesn't help people's lives, and if it's going to hurt people and do damage, then we need to recalibrate. Then we need to back up and see what is it that we're doing. Are we doing this to win arguments? Are we doing this to, come up with a perfect theoretical model that can't exist or can't thrive, in real life and can't actually apply to real people's lives? So I appreciate both, right? Because I just think on the one hand, the really kind of like hardcore purist gender criticals, people like Exelanzic, people like Karen Davis, Vanessa Vokey, even me. I think it's good because we keep things in check, right? And then you have, sort of the other side of like Genspect and, even like, even some of the, I don't know. I don't think that you're trans. But even like some people on the other side of the gender critical conversation who have made more concessions and who, and the problem with that is that it dances so close to, then it starts to get into true trans territory, and then it starts to get into just so close to the sort of like gender fire. And I just think it's a good checks and balances, because maybe on the one hand, maybe the thing I can say about the whole Genspect thing and maybe even the true trans thing is that it maybe has some applications to the real world that the more hard line gender critical thinking can't actually translate, but I just think both are important. It's a good checks and balances, and we just got to be able to keep having these conversations without like going insane and like doxing each other and trying to get each other fired and calling each other names and accusing each other of just all this sort of fucked up stuff. And it's hard. It's hard because it's like there's so many nefarious things going on, because I do think a lot of us suspect that there is a sub movement to normalize pedophilia, and I think we're all on edge about that, and we're all on edge. It's like, well, what is everybody's purposes? And you can't always just trust that everybody's in this for the right reasons. I don't know, you guys. I think it's just important that we be willing to take a step back, and we don't always need to like dig in our heels or double, triple, or quadruple down. Sometimes it's just take a step back from everything and try to understand why other people are taking a position that they are taking. And I understand that when dealing with real kids who are really dealing with gender issues, that are really dealing with this monster in real time. It's one thing to be an adult and to be a detransitioner and to have been detransitioned for a long time, and now you're gender critical and you can kind of look back everything's 2020. Even that is so different than being a kid in the thick of it who doesn't want to get away from gender ideology, who can't see why it's not the path, who doesn't get what you're talking about, who really believes that who they are in this moment, what they believe right now today is who they're going to be for the rest of their lives, and who cannot see 2 weeks in time, who cannot see a year down the road, and how these things, and kids who, when you talk about sterilizing them, where I saw studies where from a lot of these gender clinics, the vast majority of kids, when given the option to preserve their fertility, decline to do so because they say, I'm never going to want to have children. A lot of these are teenagers and very young adults. And what we know is so many young people can't see down the line that they may want to start a family one day, that they may find somebody that they fall in love with and And all of a sudden, a lot of those feelings don't happen in us until we are older. It is hard to make these forever decisions, again, when you don't have those mental faculties, when you don't have those rational parts of your brain fully developed. And when these are the people that you need to rationalize with, when these are the people that you need to try to convince and try to, have these, it is so different when it's one side of the, gender critical movement arguing with another side of the gender critical movement. Well, try arguing with a child who's in it, who's really in it. And I think that it just hit me that, like, I get why. I don't know. I just think that I, like, lost some perspective, and I think that I didn't have perspective because I don't have a child who's going through this. And I want to be more aware of what parents are going through, and I want to be not harmful to them. I want to be an ally to them. And I want to continue to be an ally to them, and I want to serve, and I want my work to serve them, because if it's not serving those parents, and if it's not serving those kids, then who the fuck is it serving? Then why am I doing this? Why am I wasting all this time? Yeah, I gotta go. To everybody who just gave me money, like, holy shit, thank you. That was, like, really unexpected and amazing. I really appreciate you a lot. It really helps. I love and appreciate you guys. Thank you for teaching me stuff. Oh, listen, I'm still learning. I'm still evolving. I'm still developing, okay? I'm gonna get things wrong. I'm trying. This is a hard thing, and just that's why this is such a hot topic, because it is so hard. Because the answers are not easy. They're not straightforward, and that's why it's like we've got to come at it and attack it from every angle. Yeah. And just like I gotta go, but like a quick update on my health. So I went to my urologist. So I went to the ER like a week ago, and I was diagnosed with a pleural effusion and hydronephrosis of the kidneys. So the hydronephrosis is meaning that they were like retaining too much fluid and the walls of my kidneys were thinning, but it's not related to a infection or anything. They thought it was due to a blockage. And of course the ER doctor like freaked out. And like, he scared me so bad. Oh my God. I had to get like I got a CT scan of my chest and my neck, and he was like, oh my God. He was like, you have a pleural effusion, which is like fluid in your lungs. And he's like, and then there's like something weird with your kidney, and it looks like it's blocked, and that could be a growth, and that you got to call your cancer center. And I was like, oh my God. So then I like Googled all this shit, and even the cancer center scared the shit out of me. They were like, it's such a long story. Basically, I was supposed to have more surveillance than I've had, and they're like, oh, we're really behind, and it's because one of the doctors left the practice, and so they missed scheduling me, and they're like, oh, and everybody was like scrambling, and they're like, we'll get you in for imaging as soon as possible, and everyone kept like apologizing to me, and I was like, fuck, is that like bad? Like, don't apologize, like, you're scaring me. And it could have been that like I met the type of cancer that I had. It's common for it to metastasize to the kidney. And so it's common for a pleural effusion to mean that my cancer metastasized to the kidney and was blocking the kidney and not allowing it to drain properly, and then that fluid was backing up to my lungs. Or pleural effusion could have either been a result of that, or it can also be a symptomatic of metastasis to my lungs. So either way, it was like both scenarios was pointing to like cancer, like metastasis, like my cancer was spreading. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna die. Because lung cancer is like has like a 20% survival rate. Like, lung cancer is really like bad. So I was like, it just really freaked out. And I couldn't breathe. It was bad. So I went to the urologist. they are getting images of my kidneys, but based on like some of the imaging that he had, it turns out just a totally freak thing. I have like a congenital defect in my kidney. And apparently he said I've probably had it since birth and just didn't know. So like my one kidney is deformed. And he's like, yeah, that's why. And then I have a pleural effusion. We still need to be sure. I haven't had a PET scan. But just based on that alone, I just have a sense. I have a sense that I don't have mets in my lungs. I don't know for sure because I haven't had the imaging. But it's like I think that this more has to do with the fact that I do have this weird thing with my kidneys and then maybe like a viral thing. So I have to get a bunch more tests and stuff like that. I have to get another colonoscopy, which fucking sucks. And a bunch of more, like I have to get like another CT scan and do some other shit and like blood work and stuff. But I think I'm gonna be okay. So I think it was just a scare, thank God. I never ever want to go back to active. I never want to go back to active cancer treatment ever again. Ever. It's really scary. It's really shitty. It sucks. I just want to pretend like it never happened. I just want to pretend like I never had cancer and just live my life. I hate that cancer center too. I hate it. It's like it's like forever. It's such like a far drive and like everybody's just, I hate it. I just go there and as soon as I park, it's like so much anxiety. Anyway, all right, I gotta go. I appreciate you guys. I don't know, keep communicating with me. Learn a lot from you guys. Let's just keep at it, you know? We just got to keep at it. I think we just got to keep talking to people, piquing people. We've got to keep empowering parents that they can protect their kids and that they do know their kids and they can do what's best for their families. But yeah. All right, that sounds like they're here. I'm waiting for someone to get here. All right, guys, I appreciate you. I hope any of this made sense. I can't even read the damn chat. It sucks because I'm doing this off my phone, and I wanted to be able to, like, talk to you guys. I don't know if I'm making sense. You know, like I said, I really wanted to be thoughtful about how I said this. And it might not make sense to people who aren't following with what's going on just elsewhere on the internet or other conversations with the whole gender critical thing. I was kind of out of the loop with a lot of it, you know, so I hope it all makes sense. And again, and Liz, I want to be clear, like I support and I am grateful for, you know, the other women who are in this fight, you know, along with me, you know, X-Lansic and Vanessa and Karen and everybody else. And I'm grateful for them. And I think that, you know, we can all just, you know, continue to listen to what the community is saying and, you know, just be willing to look at ourselves and just, I don't know, you know, be willing to take a step back and analyze our approach if it just seems like it's not, I don't know. Seems like maybe we need to try things a different way or take a look at our message and make sure that our message is serving the community, is helping the people that we want to help and is doing good and not adding harm. I don't know. I just probably should shut up at this point. All right. I'm going to go. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you for all your support. Thank you, everybody. You guys are the best. I'm really grateful. Talk to you guys soon. Just stay in touch. Let me know what you guys want me to make videos about. Let me know what you're interested in. I'm probably going to do another Not Our Crimes soon. I'm like way overdue for one of those. Okay. All right. Bye, guys. Happy Saturday. See ya. Peace.